All right, guys. So welcome to another edition of the Jiu-Jitsu Podcast.
That's right.
That's with. Before I get into the podcast with you guys, and before we get into the podcast with you, disclaimer: this episode is going to contain some profanity and stuff. So if you don't like profanity, you don't like hearing it, if you get easily offended, if you've ever listen to anything that old Kurt Osiander does, then you understand that who he is. But he says some things, and again, we're not about telling people what they can and can't say, so he's just going to say what he says. But it's a fun podcast where we talk about Jiu-Jitsu, getting into it, because he got started way back in the day, as he'll talk about, and he's almost 60.
Yeah.
So again, kind of going through that whole thing. So again, I hope you guys enjoy the podcast with us talking to a like an old school Jiu-Jitsu black belt. And but again, I wanted to give you the disclaimer just in case your ears do not like those kinds of words, or if maybe you got kids and you don't want to hear them, you don't want them to hear it. So if you're parents, you can turn that stuff off then, or whatever. So also, before we get started with everything, big shout out to Riggs. He is as he says, a copper in Ontario, Canada. He spends a lot of hours in the mobile office, and he left us a review, and he just wanted to see if he could get a shout out there in Ontario, Canada. So brother, again, appreciate your review on I believe that's iTunes, right? Is it iTunes? Okay. Shows how much I know. Appreciate your review. That helps out, and if any of you guys are listening, if you want to throw a review in there, we greatly appreciate it. And if you want to get a shout out on the podcast after your review is done, take a screenshot of it, and you can send it to us at the Jiu-Jitsu Podcast at gmail.com. And also, big thanks to our sponsors. It's got Charlotte's Web. You guys that have been listening to us. I'm happy. I get a lot of messages from you guys because about the Charlotte's Web stuff. So a lot of people will send me messages about Charlotte's Web saying, hey, man, I tried it. I liked it. Even my students, a lot of them will send me messages. Hey, what's your code again? That kind of thing. And I just gave some to one of the students. I got some more to give to another student, but I just gave a sample to one of my students to let them try it out. And more often than not, people come back and send me messages or like talk to me and say, "Man, I really liked it." Mm-hmm. And for me, like, I recently I do this I do this with everything, everything from coffee to CBD to any supplements. I came off of it. Just wanted to see what it felt like. It wasn't bad. It wasn't like I was like jonesing or like itching for it, but I definitely like my sleep, and I sleep more. I feel better as far as my rest and everything else, and the way that my body feels when I'm using the CBD stuff. So I take the CBD, either the gummies with the melatonin already baked in there, mm-hmm. or I'll take the tincture. Right now, the tincture that I like is the lemon twist. Tastes kind of like Fruity Pebbles.
It's yum.
It's good. And so again, if you guys want to try some of their stuff out, you can go to charlottesweb.com, use the promo code Jiu-Jitsu, save 15% on the order. Good stuff. Again, big thanks to our sponsor, Epic Roll. Matt's been with us here for a little while. If you'd like to go to Matt's website and check out some of his stuff, some of his designs, he's always coming out with something new. So probably, I would say almost every month, there's something going on. He just came out with some sort of OD green, dark green, hunter green, whatever you want to call it. Like fight shorts or grappling shorts. And so if you want to check some of those out, you can go to his website at epicrollbjj.com. Promo code is Jiu-Jitsu. Again, 15% off the order. And then again, guys, if you want to jump in on the Patreon, I've got a few things going on with it, along with the content, everything that we put up there, the behind the scenes stuff, the workout things that we put up there. I mean, everything. There's tons of stuff. We also have a tier where if you want to, a couple guys did this last week with me. We have a Zoom meeting that I do. I don't even like calling it a Zoom meeting. It's not a meeting. It's basically you're going to hang out with me for about an hour on Zoom, right? And it's a very small, so just a small group of us that get together with my Jiu-Jitsu Vault members and with the Patreon, the upper tier members. And basically the way it is, you step in, you jump in with us. You can ask me questions towards the end, but I typically have some stories or something to share with you. This past week, I jumped in there with everyone and I showed them the bulking diet that I was on. Because my diet's changed. Like I went from eating less and then kind of lost a bunch of weight. Now I'm working my way back up, which has been really crazy, by the way. It's amazing. Like when you're eating in the way that's specific to a diet and you're eating disciplined, it's hard to gain weight. Like, I can, if I wanted to, I've always had no problem gaining weight. Like, cause I have an appetite that's like no other. Right now I'm eating a ton of food, but because it's very disciplined about the macros, it's hard to gain the weight, man. Like if I miss a meal, my weight like goes backwards. It's crazy. I was like, golly, this is nuts. I was talking to my nutrition coach. I was like, dude, like this is nuts. And so I show basically the diet that I was on to lose weight. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, okay, now here's the diet that I'm on to gain weight. And then here's the food that, because I've had like 3 iterations of that. And I was showing kind of what's changing. Yeah. Right. So again, this way, if you're curious, if you're trying to maybe get a little bit better performance, or if you're trying to lose some weight or gain some weight, you can kind of see a methodology behind it. And again, kind of to demystify food, because a lot of times to me, diets are always like, it's like fad diets. Mm-hmm. It's like where we demonize a particular food or grouping of food rather than, and again, everybody still struggling with weight, right? Whereas if you look at it like these are just, it's fuel. And we got to eat certain types of fuel and everything else. It's just to me personally, it's been a really helpful way to look at food, much healthier way to look at food, rather than demonizing it or whatever and be like, no, this is just the way this stuff works. But anyway, if you guys want to jump into those Zooms, and along with getting all the content that I'm talking about, where podcast extras and everything else, you can jump over to patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu Podcast, and you can jump in there and get that stuff. And then again, guys, if you have ever heard about my email list, I call it Chew Crew. The Chew Crew. Because again, it's less of like, I don't like the word emails. It sounds very like corporate-y, like I'm going to send you some like weird message. It's literally like me like having conversations with it. Like I got a message from a dude I think it was just the other day, where he was like, let's see if I can find it. I probably won't be able to find it on my phone. Yeah, I'm not gonna be able to find it. But basically, I get these messages pretty regularly where people are, hey man, I love your emails and whatever else. And I know that there was a couple weeks ago where I was, here it is. This one was from Nick. He says, hey man, I really appreciate the emails and the courses you have. They're paying off dividends. Appreciate their hard work. And this was to one of the emails where I was talking about why I'd never share the best book I've ever read. Yeah. So again, the emails are fun. So again, it's not like I offer products and stuff like that, but they're not like, hey guys, sales ending now. Kind of, it's nothing like that. It's like basically you and me are talking. If you like my videos and if you like listening to some of the rambles, you'll like the emails. And again, you can go over there and get them for free, of course. You go to my website at jiujitsu.net, look for the free ebook. You'll get a little package of stuff when you opt in, where I'll give you an ebook to show you some drilling ideas, which could be useful if you're having to drill on your own with like training partners and stuff instead of being at the gym. There's also a ebook for developing your own game plan, as well as some videos to go along with that. You get that stuff for free, and then you get the emails, and you can unsubscribe at any time. So, guys, with all that said, let's jump into the podcast. It's not a word. Podcast with Kurt Osiander. How's everything going for you right now, man? What are you up to these days?
With the COVID-19 stuff and everything, like we got shut down like earlier, like last year, right? And I don't know where you guys are. Where are you guys?
We're in Kentucky.
Okay, so like I think it's like way more lenient throughout the United States, except for here where everybody's a fucking pussy. And so we got shut down, and it's like, all of a sudden, my partner came up to me, Jake, and he's like, no, we have to close down. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about, man? We're not going to follow the rules. And they're all, no, I don't think you understand, Kurt. This is a pandemic, and we have to follow the rules and this and that and everything. And I was like, fuck, And so that was really, really weird, because I've been on the planet for a little while, and so it never happened before. And all of a sudden, it's like, shut everything down. Can't do this. Everybody shelter in place, and there's no toilet paper, and I was just like, fuck. So and then another shutdown just happened recently. So and so we have like some classes going, but they're like, we have to follow these like state laws and stuff like that. And they have to be pods, and we can't touch them, so we have to do the move on this fucking lame ass dummy that doesn't move like a human at all. It's so bizarre. It's so bizarre. And I've been injured for like a year or so. So I haven't been training. I've just been teaching and stuff like that. And I'm getting lined up to get like surgery and stuff like that. So hopefully I can make a comeback before I get too old.
What kind of injuries you got dealing with right now?
Dude, I got fucking both my fucking femoral heads are like stuck right way deep into my fucking hips, and so they're gonna do a double hip replacement
At the same time?
Yeah, I think so.
You got this.
My dad did double knee.
Yeah.
And like the next day they kicked him out.
Yes.
He's like, fuck, and then I had to walk out of there.
Yeah. The hips are actually a little easier. Like, believe it or not, the hips are easier than the knees. Like, people, like, as far as physical therapy goes, a lot of times, like, I won't see people that have hip replacements. Just the way that surgery has evolved so much. They go through the front of the hip most of the time. Sometimes it still don't, but usually the front of the hip. And it's just people do really well. And they get back to training. I know a lot of guys that still train jiu-jitsu and consistently and do it really well. And they say their hips feel even better than they did, so
wow.
Yeah.
Well, I'm hopeful, so apparently, like, I was like training so much and training so hard. And if I wasn't competing, I was helping my guys that were competing. And if I wasn't fighting, I was helping the guys that were fighting. So I did everybody's camp. I did my weight training. I'd go swim. Whatever it took, to be like as good as I could possibly be. And then all of a sudden my body just went and fucking took a fucking nosedive. And I was like, what the fuck is going on here?
Was it all at once? Like, did it all happen? Or did you kind of progressively?
This one day I walked out to the car and it was a tight spot, like parked next to another car. And I was trying to get in my car and I was like, why can't I get in my fucking car? What the fuck is going on? And I couldn't maneuver. And it was like so weird, and then it started like shock me. Like when I took steps, it would be like, eh. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? So, that was like the most, like the weirdest thing was not being able to like move like I used to, like agility wise, you know what I'm saying? Like now, like if you put things in my way and I have to step through them like a obstacle course, it's like a torture.
What was your game like when like you first started training? Like how would you describe your jiu-jitsu? And like versus like maybe now, and give us a little background. Like, when did you start training initially? Like, how long ago did you start?
I started like pre-93, and I started with Cesar Gracie, Hal's cousin, and I was pretty crazy, and so my game was pretty like barbaric. It was like just pass and fucking smash the person and fucking choke them and do whatever like that. It was pretty like very basic, but really mean and it's a satanic kind of jiu-jitsu. And it started to get a little bit like smoother. Like it took me to get a year and a half to get my blue belt, and then I was in blue belt for 4.5 years, and then once I got my purple belt, my jiu-jitsu started to smoothen out, how it gets like a little bit more not so rigid and like barbaric. And then brown belt really was a big big deal, because that was 4 years for brown belt. And then I just kept like drilling and kept working on my jiu-jitsu until it like got like the way I liked it, and where I was a lot more smarter, and my jiu-jitsu was a lot more fluid, and it was still really, really mean, but it was it wasn't so obvious.
What do you think led to your game smoothening out a bit?
Oh, I think that was just time and stuff like that, like earlier in the early days, it was like, I would just like, do the move like I was supposed to, and it was correct and everything, but I would like exert myself a lot, instead of like trying to, tech it, be a little bit more technical and stuff like that. And it took me a while to figure out how to be more technical, because I had, the savagery in me. So, I could, that was easy for me. It's like, okay, just do this. And I'd be like, rah! And then, eventually it started to work out where I was like, thinking through the stuff, and that made the game way cooler and everything like that. And, by the time I got my black belt, when I think that was, fuck man, I think it was 2007.
Wow.
Yeah. I think it was like it was the Pan Ams were in Santa Barbara, and that was my first black belt tournament. And I got second in my weight, and then I won the absolute. So after that, I started really working on my jiu-jitsu a lot to make it a lot more fluid and a lot more technical and stuff like that, and try to teach the guys that brutality is great and everything, but if you can, when you're really tired, you're gonna have to rely on your technique.
Yeah, I think it's good to have both. You want to be able to like shift into that gear if you need to be a little rough and rough roll someone. But then you also have to be able to shift into that gear to be able to like be a little bit more fluid if, especially if you're going up against someone who's, physically stronger or in better shape or whatever. And especially like you said, as you get older, you can't necessarily just put it on all the youngsters.
Yeah.
I
would like to though.
Yeah, of course, right?
I would like to. The best thing is smashing young guys. That's the best thing ever. And then like the past, like I would say like 2 years, I haven't been doing that. And then it started like kind of like go downhill after touring like a few places and stuff like that. It was like tough to smash the young guys.
Here's a question for you. Cause, how old were you when you started jiu-jitsu roughly?
I started counting when I was 28.
All right. So you've been training for a long time. I started when I was 18, and I remember when all the I started wrestling when I was like my early teens. But I remember all the old guys telling me, "Oh man, when you start getting past 30, dude, you feel your body." And
that's not old.
Of course it's not old. No, it's not old. What I was going to ask you is, because like every time I would talk to the older guys, they would always, "Oh, you're gonna feel it. You're gonna feel it." When do you think you really started to sort of feel the wear and tear? Because I remember like when I was 18, 20, I could train all day long, all the way up into my late 20s. I could train like literally as much as I possibly could. I could train all day long, and I was fine. And I remember when I was in my early 30s, not old, but I remember it would be like, man, that soreness didn't go away like after a day. Like I need to take a day off and rest. It's like, It was frustrating. When did you start feeling that?
I started feeling that like 49.
Love it.
And I was like, God, I'm tired. I'm beat up, and we're doing a tournament this week and everything. And they're like, okay. And my trainer would be like, okay, Kurt, it's not 24 hours anymore. You need like 72 hours off, okay? And that means not drilling every day until the tournament. That means doing fucking nothing, So
how old are you now?
I'm 57.
Oh wow, I didn't realize that. It's funny. I don't know about you. Like when I was coming up as a kid, I didn't like when I think about this all the time when I see my students roll and stuff. I see like moms and dads, and you see guys that are in their 40s and up. Right. I don't ever remember like as a kid, like thinking of people in their 40s and up and almost 60 being a bunch of like crazy people wrestling with each other. Right. Like it's just not something I remember as a kid or even thought about. And now it's like it's become, you see these people out there doing it. It's super cool.
It's super cool that a lot of people started even later than like that I did. I mean, I started like truly like training at 28 and being really serious and everything like that. But there's a lot of people that are starting at that like 40 plus, 50 plus, and it's really cool that they get into it and everything. It's definitely like, it's not for everybody. It's for only crazy people.
Mm-hmm.
What about jiu-jitsu? Like, so you said pre-93. Like, so that's kind of before UFC. What was it about you? Like, how did you discover it?
I went to high school with Caesar, and he went to Brazil. Like after we got out of high school, he's like, "Yeah, I'm going to my family's to Brazil to learn my family's martial art." And I'm like, "What?" I was like in a speed metal band, and we were like just fucking partying and fucking just maniacs, on motorcycles and shit like that. And I had gotten married, my first marriage, and he appeared on my porch one day back from Brazil, and he's like, "Yeah, I want to open an academy over here." And I was like a construction guy, so I broke down the walls and fucking painted everything, and set up the mats and shit and started training. And pretty soon I was at the academy all day long, or I would do construction all day and then go to the academy and then every day and stuff like that. So I knew the right person from the, at the right time.
It seemed kind of like far-fetched, right? Like it's this random guy that goes to high school with you from Brazil. He's like, I'm going home to learn this martial art. And you're like,
especially back in
what are you talking about?
Especially
right?
back in the day, right?
Right.
Yeah. And I go, show me something. And he showed me Mata Leon, lion killer. And so he did Mata Leon, and I was like, fuck, I got to know this shit, because knowing stuff gets you through a lot of stuff, if you know about stuff. So especially when it's like combat and warfare and stuff like that. So I was like, immediately I was like, totally like, oh, I got to know this.
Did you get in fights as a kid or anything? Like, was that something that was there something about jiu-jitsu that you were like, this is the thing?
I got normal stuff. Like I was in the office a lot. Okay.
No, not you.
To be truthful, I was in the office a lot, and then jiu-jitsu is like when he showed me that, I was like, fuck, that's really cool. He can fucking fuck somebody up without really fucking them up, And so I started training, and it was like at first it was like four of us or six of us over at my friend's house, Jim Hoskins, who's like the battalion chief of the fire department over here close to us, which like he used to be in a band, and we used to throw keggers at his house and shit, you know what I'm saying? We were like all fucking just really pretty delinquent. And and so we like move all the furniture and put out some fold out fucking gymnastic mats and then choke the fucking shit out of each other. And that was the beginning of it,
Mm-hmm. Now, what did you think, because obviously you were in it before Ralph Gracie and all that stuff went down. When you were watching the first UFC, like the rest of us, like me, I was watching it with my eyes, like I was a kid. So I was a kid who was doing Taekwondo at the time. So I thought the Strikers were going to win. And then the Brazilian came in there and choked everybody out. And at the end, they brought out Elio, and they were talking about this family from Brazil. And it sounded something out of like a movie, the family from Brazil that does this martial art. But for you watching it, you were kind of on the in. What did you?
No, I was already in it. We were like, Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah.
Jiu-Jitsu. We were like already like, we drank the Kool-Aid twice.
Yeah. So it just made sense to you that he beat everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, so kind of going back to Caesar, how long did you? Because I know you received your black belt under Ralph?
Yeah.
How long did you train with Caesar?
I was with Caesar until purple belt.
Okay. Was there any reason to change or just?
No. Like I was there, and then after after the UFC, she was like, "Man, we're too busy. We got to bring over my cousin Half. He's really crazy." And I'm like, "Okay." and so Half came over, and then they started to expand. So the Pleasant Hill Academy, and then they opened up a Mountain View, which is like down the coast from us here, and so one of them took one spot and the other spot, and then I would like commute between them and be like, the go between. And it came to a point where it's like, you got to make a choice and stuff like that. And then I'm like, fuck it. I'm fucking going to Brazil for 3 months.
What was that like?
That was awesome. It was an awesome experience. It was like really a lot of nice people, and I stayed with my friend's family, and I had to be in at a certain time and go shopping and stuff like that. It was really cool. They were like really, really cool people, and I got to see a lot of interesting things and meet a lot of interesting people, and then do a lot of training.
What was the training like, as far as, you were at a Gracie Academy, so, I'm sure there were some similarities, but what was it like in Brazil training there versus training here, especially at that early time? That
was 97, and Carlinhos would be sitting there on his plastic lawn chair. And then, I was a pro belt, but I was older. So these guys were like, who the fuck is this old fucker? And then I'd come into the regular class would be 5 p.m. or whatever, and do the 5 p.m. class. And then it would be a little bit of a warm up, not really much. And then the move, and then specific training, like specific this position and you got to do this and stuff like that. And then about 7:30, 8 o'clock, the fucking graduates would come in, which would be like the really tough purple belts and then the brown belts and the black belts. But luckily, while I was in the States, Nino came and stayed with us. Oh, wow. Nino Chambry. Mm-hmm. So when I went to Brazil, he's like, no, Kurt, you stay here with me. And they'd be like, hey, where's that fucking gringo? And they're like, oh, there he is. Nino's sitting on top of him, you know? And so I it was really cool. And I knew like Gordo too. And then I met Holeta and I met Mita Guy and fucking all the like the heyday of like Ralph Gracie, like 97 when they were just fucking powerhouse.
Wow. And then like, so did you feel like you kind of belonged there as well? Do you feel like you belonged as far as like part of this jiu-jitsu community, like being just very different, like, you know, you're a different dude from a metal band and kind of you kind of
no it was cool because luckily like I spoke Spanish and then I transposed my Spanish into Portuguese pretty easily, you know, and then if you speak the language, you know, you get by way more. Yeah.
And so like coming back, like after that trip, did you have like a different perspective on jiu-jitsu? Did you like realize like, hey, this is my thing now. Like this is gonna be a part of me forever.
I knew it was my thing when I left. Yeah. And then it was kind of like a quest. And so when I came back, I was just like way motivated. I had like upgraded my game like tenfold and trained with a lot of really, really cool people and really good people. So, and then, I just came back motivated and then I went with Half instead of coming back to Caesar. and then, you know, it went from there, you know, and then, about like, when was it? 90, it was like, then we opened up San Francisco, you know, and then I was there like all day, every day.
So, when did you go full time into jiu-jitsu where you stopped working anything else and just did jiu-jitsu?
That was when the San Francisco Academy opened up.
What was that like doing it back then? Because I mean, it was still relatively new. What was it like going full time to jiu-jitsu?
It was 98 in San Francisco, and we opened up, and people would walk by and they'd be like, the fuck is going on in there? You know, everybody would walk by and just be like, why are those guys rolling around? And then it started to get, you know, some inertia, and then fucking all of a sudden the classes were full. I had to run like, okay, A team go on, you know, like, and the mat would be full and they do a round and go A team off, B team on, you know, because it would be so full.
Mm-hmm.
And then we finally had to move to the place where they still are now. And it's you could fit a lot of people on the mat at one time.
Nice. But when you were in those early days, I mean, because I remember when I was coming up as a white belt in like 2003, you know, you would still get people that would come in, and this continued for a few years, but you would get people that would come in every now and then that wanted to just like test themselves. You know, did you get a lot of that, like where these guys would from like maybe, you know, different backgrounds and stuff would want to come in and like test themselves against the jiu-jitsu guys?
A death match? Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any like memories that stand out from any of those that are funny or good or?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of them, you know, but back then it was great because we had like the first batch that was getting built, and that was like Dave Camarillo, Cameron Earl, me, Scotty from On the Mat, Gumby from On the Mat, fucking all of us together, like Big Dave, Mike Prudenzio, just like the first guys, and we fucking all we did was like sit there and drill and fucking and do jiu-jitsu, right? And then people would come in and they want to you know, fight Half and stuff like that, and they're like, hey, go with my blue belt over there, and then, you know, fucking one of us would fucking break him off and then send him home, you know. And it was like right after, especially after the UFC, a lot of like Sambo guys, judo guys come in, you know.
Did they come back, like some of those guys? Do you remember them?
Yeah. If they were really cool guys, they'd come back and sign up. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's like it's the ultimate way to. That's the proof right there, right? That's the best marketing right there. You come in, we show you what we're all about.
Yeah, it's even better if you can do it and be nice about it. But we were like younger, and so we were fucking straight up fucking dicks.
Yeah. Do you think the explosion, like, or like you got a lot of new students, was it immediately after the UFC, or was it kind of just like kind of just build it, like it built progressively?
The UFC definitely did make an impact, like, of people who like were martial artists and looking for martial arts, you know. So that was like what it impacted at first, and then after that, like a lot of people just came by and were like, "Well, show us some of it." And like the big thing I would do is like I would get you in and get you wavered up and in a gi, and then start showing you some basics, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then the people would be like, "Wow, that's pretty cool. I want to do this." So
yeah,
that always helps.
What about like, so tell me about the move of the week. How did that start? You know, that whole thing, because like we started the podcast kind of mentioning about, and Chewy's got like a you know, a YouTube channel with a lot of content on jiu-jitsu and stuff. So, but you were kind of one of the original dudes that did that, you know, and I think I didn't
even do it.
Well, you were in the video.
To tell
so
you the truth, that was totally fucking accidental and totally not me, because like one of my students, Dimitri, he's from New York, and he moved out here. He's like a security fucking tech guy and shit like that. And he'd be like, "Okay, so do something now." And he would have like all the cool phones, you know, before people had cool phones and shit like that. And so he'd go, "So do a move." And I'd be like, "All right, I'll do a move." And then I would do a move, and he'd put it to music and put it up, you know. And by the time he left and went back to New York and stuff like that, it was just like, you know, me doing like spazzing out and kind of like going, "Fuck, what the fuck are you guys doing?" You know, and hanging out, you know, and because I had watched other people's like move of the week, and this guy's like, "And you know, the philosophy is, and this is what you know, the philosophy behind this," and I was like, "Fuck, is this guy gonna show the fucking move or what?"
Yeah.
You know, so I would go, "Hey, what's up? This is your move. This is how you do it. Watch, go train," you know. And so that was like my shtick, or whatever you want to call it. And then it got kind of popular, I guess. And then Bear from Show Your Roll, who I'd known for a while, he put it on the Facebook page for Show Your Roll, and it fucking just went crazy. And then you got your move of the week, and then I got like my guys Brisham and fucking my John Murillo, who were like, they film stuff and they know how to use cameras, and then fucking they put the metal music in the beginning with the graphics and cool shit. You know, I don't do any of that shit, bro. If you made me like try to do that, I would end up killing the computer.
Well, that's what you got helpful students for.
Yeah, no, I'm not a tech guy. I did not make the crossover, you know, like from like being like Pong, you know, video games, to like doing computers. I did not make it.
Well, it's funny, man. I remember like when I started doing like channels and stuff, like my channel, I remember looking up YouTube stuff, and I feel like you inspired I jokingly call it this, a graveyard of jiu-jitsu channels. Because what ended up happening is like everybody was like, "Oh, this move of the week, this shit's easy, I'm just gonna do one," and then they would throw up the move of the week, but they weren't the character that you are. I mean, because like one of the things that's funny, you're entertaining to watch because you're a character, right? And it was funny because you'd see him, and it would you know, this was for my own research. I'm like looking, I'm like, okay, he posted it like 2 weeks in a row, and then it was done. You know, 2 weeks in a row, done. You know, and it was always the move of the week. But yours kept ticking along there for a pretty good long while.
Yeah, now the only thing that screwed me up was like COVID, and then my cameraman has a kid, a little kid, and so like, you know, and then we're supposed to not to touch each other and all this crazy shit. So.
Man, I saw a gym there. A friend of mine, I think she trains at like some gym. I don't know where it is exactly in California, but it's somewhere in Southern California. But like they were training outside, and they were in this like little tent area. And I guess that was allowed or something. Like, so I don't know. Like, can you guys train at all, or is that kind of
no? They can train and stuff like that. Like, we can't touch them. So when they come in, like the area has to be like totally like wipe down and clean, which it always is anyway.
Right, of course.
And then of course, they come in and they can touch each other, but we can't touch them. And so, it's kind of like a really, really light warm up. And then we make them drill a lot, like a lot. And then they get put to train. And so, it's either a specific training or it's going to be like open. And then, and that's about it. And then they go out in that pod. Yeah. I don't know what it's like, the state stuff. It's that pod is not to touch the other pod. So those people have to leave, and then you have to wipe down the whole area. And then the new pod comes in, and then you can't touch them either.
So strange.
It almost reminds you, like, you say pod, and I just think of a bubble. Yeah. Like people just
exactly.
sit in a bubble, right?
No, totally. That's what I think.
A bubble only. It's not a bubble.
Word, like, pod is like everybody's in a little pod.
Yeah, but so they can actually. So just so I get an understanding, they can actually, like, the group, however big that is, like what, 2-4 people or
whatever, anywhere from like 4 to like 12 if we're lucky nowadays.
So they can be together training. They can actually train, roll, whatever, right? You just can't be there.
You like fucking shoot their head and fucking make sure everybody's temperature is on board.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so I wanted to jump back to, like, the move of the week. That started to take off for you. And just people recognize. That's how I recognize you, because I saw you in 2016. I saw you Master Worlds, and I was a purple belt at the time, and you were competing. I don't know. I think you won. I was watching, and I was like,
was that Vegas?
It was Vegas, yeah. And I was like, holy shit, that's Kurt Osiander. I was like really excited to see you compete, because you actually, I would watch the videos, and I saw you in real life doing your thing. It was awesome. Like, how did things change for you? Like, did you get a lot more notoriety? Did your gym get more popular? Like, what happened for you then? What opportunities came about?
All of the above. It's like I got a lot of seminar opportunities, and then I got what else? A lot of people came to my academy to either visit or to, like, come and train there. So it was all pluses.
Was it weird for you, like, initially, just for that kind of?
It was weird when like I'd be done doing, like, what I jiu-jitsu, and then I would do what I like to do, like party or be very crazy, and then get caught, and they're like, hey, I'm like, fuck, shit, and
but,
people expect certain people to have certain behavior, and that's why I never try to like hide that I was really a crazy person. So that I'm not trying to hide anything. I'm being me the whole time, and I'm not,
You are who you are.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Well, it's better to be that way, because I feel like it would suck. I don't know about you. To me, it would suck if, like, you maybe come to like someone, right, or this image of who you think they are anyway from watching them and stuff, and then you meet them and they're a completely different person, right? It would be better if I like this person the way they are, crazy and all, whatever, and then if that's who you are, that's much better.
Yeah, totally. But the thing is, like, some people, like, let's say, like the people who put on tournaments, and people who do stuff like publicity or whatever, or what do you want to say, they prefer somebody who is, like, portraying good morals and stuff like that. It's not that I have bad morals. It's like I just like to have a good time.
Sure.
It's not that I'm decadent or anything like that. I mean, I got really, really kind of high fucking, like, values and stuff like that, but it doesn't mean I don't like to party and fuck around a lot.
Yeah. Well, that's something that's interesting, because I feel like if social media was around and if these stupid phones had been around, like, a long time ago, because a lot of times we have these images of martial artists and all these people, and we have these these non-humanized versions of them where these people are somehow like they're mythically placed in history. And then when you can dig deep and you actually read about them from like firsthand accounts, it's like you read them and you're like, oh, they were human.
He was a fucking butcher and he fucking raped everybody. And yeah, exactly. He was a fucking, he was a psychopath, but if they wrote it out, it's like, no. And he was, a knight of super honor and everything like that. But, didn't say that he fucking, would raise the castle to the ground, stuff like that.
Well, right. Well, even like I was reading, I think it was Robert Drysdale's book. He was talking, they had like an account from like Maeda, and they said Maeda like loved to drink, so he'd go train, he loved to drink and have a good time and gamble and things like that. So, but again, that wouldn't maybe be the nice cleaned up judo image that they wanted to have of him, but it's like he's a person like all of us, and we all have our little side to us, so you can be a good person and still like you said, enjoy to have a drink or whatever it is that you want to do.
I think sometimes part of the appeal, is you can relate to somebody that's imperfect, right? Like if you see these people on this pedestal and like, because we're all imperfect. Like we talk about this all the time. We're all imperfect. So it's just like some of these people you see and they're almost like, it's like they're unattainable. But I think when you have somebody that's maybe more, sometimes rough around the edges a little bit, like, you like to do your own thing.
Really rough.
Yeah, and that's fine. But I think that like you relate to some people in that way and they can relate to you as well because like, we all have our shit, we all have our issues.
Yeah, I agree totally with that.
And I think it's some of the appeal. Like that's why, like Chewy's saying, like you've got like a certain character that you are. Like, right? There's only one Kurt Osiander.
I hope so.
There's only one dude, and I was going to ask you about your fingers. There's only one guy with fingers and hands like yours. Many try to replicate.
I got a lot.
What's that?
When I was doing a lot of seminars and tripping around, is everybody thought I was Clay Guida.
Yeah,
I can see that. Like you go to a gym.
I'm gonna go fucking rob a bank and shit, and I fucking do some crimes, and say I'm Clay Guida, and then like I started like going around and doing some seminars and stuff, and bringing my wife and everything, and some people would come up and tell, "Hey, Clay Guida," and she'd be like, "Ha ha ha," I'm like, "Fuck you, shut up," that was the best thing to her. She would laugh her ass off.
Yeah.
And then finally I was at like one in fucking Bangkok, and these Japanese people all surrounded me, and they're like, Clay Guida. And I was like, fuck, no
that's
way.
Fantastic.
That's your doppelganger.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Chewy, you're, what do they say, Dan Bilzerian? That's what
yeah, but like? Nobody ever comes up to me and says I'm Dan Bilzerian. They come up and said he was Clay Guida. They come up to me and say, hey, man, you know who you kind of look like? And I'm like, what? That Dan Bilzerian guy.
Do you know what they call me? Do you know who Tom Segura is? He's a comedian. They call me Skinny Tom Segura.
Skinny Tom Segura.
I was like, do you look like Skinny Tom? I was like, I don't know. Anyway, he's a comedian, fairly popular comedian, but yeah.
Here's a question for you, Kurt. When you got your black belt, I guess it was in 2007. Did you have because you said you competed at that competition, you did pretty well. Did you I don't know about what kind of experience you had. Maybe it wasn't as big of a deal to you, but did you when you put the black belt around your waist, you showed up at the competition? Did you have a moment of oh shit, I'm wearing this damn black belt here and I'm going against all these dudes and did you have a moment of kind of coming to grips with that you're in that that level or that rank now?
Yeah, but I would have that freak out earlier, at the academy.
Okay.
and luckily I had Half as a coach, and he's like, those motherfuckers, they ain't shit. They're fucking just like you. Fuck them. And then I'd be like, yeah, fuck them. And then pretty soon I would assimilate Half, and I'd be like, no, those guys aren't shit. If he says they're not shit, then they're not shit. And then a long time ago, he told me, he goes, if you don't believe in your jiu-jitsu, the guy won't believe in your jiu-jitsu. So that made a big impact on me coming up too, because I was like, well, I believe in my fucking jiu-jitsu, So I was like, what? This guy's going to be that much better than me? And then I've trained with some fucking really fucking good guys. Mm-hmm. And I've been fucking smashed and crashed and fucking everything like that, whatever those guys did, they did it to me, but I think that no matter what, it's sometimes it's like the guy might be able to like negotiate the time of the match better and come out better than the guy that's better than him, you know? Or you can fucking impose your will and smash that guy, you know? So it depends, like, what happens and everything. You never know how matchups are going to go. And then because I got brought up by Half, I never had any confidence problems. Like, I was like always going to go in there and go, fuck this guy. I'm going to fucking kill him. So I never had like doubts in myself or in my jiu-jitsu at all.
What was it like training with Half? Because Half is always, you know, I mean, you watch him fight back in the day. I remember seeing his old like match. What was it in like the EC
Pretty much
organization?
The same thing.
Yeah, he just seemed like he was just a crazy dude, right?
No, he's just gnarly, bro. He's fucking gnarly training with them.
What was it like?
Gnarly the whole time. He's like, it's like a lot of pressure, fucking a lot of fucking like really exact and accurate fucking movements and like a lot of force, and then like, you know, like subtleties and stuff like that. It's like, it's gnarly. It's like training with a hay baler.
Is that how you built your style, kind of based on his, just more forward pressure?
Yeah, totally. Like he like when he saw me, he was like, no, I'm gonna make you a top guy. You're gonna fucking be a passer, this and that, you know. And so like I do the same thing with my guys. I look at them and I go, okay, this guy's gonna be inclined to do this or inclined to do that. But yeah, but it was cool coming up in the old days. He used to beat the fucking shit out of us.
As far as like mindset and competition is just kind of being the aggressor. That was kind of the main thing. Just believe in your jiu-jitsu and just get after it.
Yeah, get the guy. That was always like the first thing he said. He goes, you know, don't fuck around, you know, fuck around, go get the fucking guy, you know, and get off the fucking mat.
Did you ever have any opponents that kind of you were just kind of surprised or that someone maybe you looked up to and then you competed against is just kind of an interesting moment for you?
No, not really.
Not really.
I mean, I've had like some opponents where like, and then I got robbed, but you know, whatever. And that happens to you when you get popular too, just so you know. And then, yeah, no, I never hit anybody like from like when I used to watch like video cassette tapes of fucking jiu-jitsu that we used to bootleg from Brazil, and then it would come out colored over here. It'd come out black and white. And we'd be like, wow, they only have black and white TVs. That's how stupid we were, you know. But we would be watching like, you know, all the old guys and shit like that. But I never ran into any of them. No.
As far as the evolution of jiu-jitsu, like the internet has been so huge in evolving jiu-jitsu now. Like, are you surprised like how much jiu-jitsu's evolved, or like what like jiu-jitsu looks like now as compared to when you started?
I'm totally impressed with like what little kids do.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I mean, we had no internet. I don't think that's how old I am. There was no internet. Okay. We were getting bootleg tapes. But these little kids have like a lot of fucking information and are like barren bowling and doing like, you know, single leg X and, you know, whatever you want to imagine, you know, these little kids are doing it. I'm like, so I usually go early to tournaments just to look at the little kids and see what they're doing. I'm just like, holy fucking shit. You know, these guys are going to be crazy, you know?
Yeah, the level is just jumped. Even, you know, I started training in 07 or 08, you know, and I was like, I'd look at some of the white belts now. I'm a brown belt and I have some white belts in class. I'm like, wow, they're doing some things that I just had no idea.
Because
like,
there's so much information, and if they can absorb it, they can, if they can figure it out, you know.
Well, just the access to like you said, the information, like there's so many more tournaments, so much more competition, so many more classes. Like, I mean, just there's, you know, you can go to jiu-jitsu like 3-4 times a day and there's gyms pretty much everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's just,
it's like, it's crazy. I like watching the little kids the best. It's like their minds are so like open and like sponges, you know, so that they're like, oh, I can do that. I can go upside down, you know? put a hook in and sweep this guy like this. And I watched that in the tournament. I'm like, no fucking way. That guy just fucking pulled that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the guy's 8.
What are some of the big changes as far as jiu-jitsu? Like when you think about, say, jiu-jitsu training, rolling, everything, back in the day, in like, say, like the early 2000s or late 90s compared to now, what are some of the big things you've seen change, or some of the things that maybe stand out to you personally?
I think that, first of all, like when we joined the academy, we didn't have a choice. and you were going to get beaten and tortured a lot, and then as it went along, a lot of people were like, look, I have a job and a wife and I can't be here for fucking 4 hours and then go home beaten up. So I think that it definitely got more mainstream, like, so that it's like culture friendly. How's that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas, but you can always fucking pull in the troglodytes, that will stay and train extra and be like the old school guys that will, like, they'll take anything. You can fucking smash them for hours. You can fucking torture them. You can do whatever you want to them, and they'll just go, yes, more.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that definitely has taken a back step. And what else? A lot of the rules and stuff like that in the tournaments and stuff like that have changed too, and the advantages and crazy shit like that. And then there's still a lot of, like, how can I say, corruption.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or in the refereeing. So things will go on and they'll change, a little bit by bit.
Here's a question for you. I remember being a white belt, and I remember going to tournaments, and ankle locks and knee bars and even heel hooks in some cases were all legal. They didn't used to really have a lot of restrictions. I remember I'm just curious because it popped into my head. Maybe you saw it before me. I never heard of a reaping call until I was like a purple belt, like in like roughly 2000 and maybe 2007, 2008. Was that a thing? Maybe even like in some of the tournaments that you saw, there was no reaping like back in the day?
That reaping rule didn't come in until, like, I don't know. I want to say like recently.
Yeah,
like,
I was thinking it was like in the late 2000s.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And then I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about, reap?
Yeah. I remember seeing the reap. I was at a competition and they said, okay, you can't do the reap. And I remember being like, what is a reap? And then they showed it and I was thinking, like, can the guy not grab the foot and push it out of the way?
Yeah, but he can also take the foot and put it there and go, ow.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there's that too.
Yeah,
hey, I've fucking seen it a bunch of times too. It's so disgusting.
Oh, I mean, one of my students, he went up against a guy from a big name team. I'm not going to say the team's name. And he went against the guy, and they were playing around. And my student will play around with the legs a little bit. The guy moves himself into a reaping position, like you're talking about. Screams, gets the tap, and then one of his buddies was recording the guy that beat my student like a weakling, gets up, looks over to his partner who was like right next to the guy recording, and he winks at him. And he goes on to do this multiple times in the tournament. I'm like, bro, come on. Like,
He must be a soccer player.
The floppers. I don't know, man. Going back to your old thing, there's a method. There's sort of a philosophy on, like, I want to assert myself against this person. I want to assert my will. I don't want to win on like some BS technicality.
There's no fucking way that would be acceptable. No way. No way. No, that's not acceptable for my guys or when I was coming up with Hal. No fucking way.
They rip that metal off your neck.
You'd get chucked out of the van on the way back home.
Yeah, I mean, it's not winning. It's
rightfully so.
Really, it's cheating. Honestly, I mean, I consider
fucking cheating.
It really is. It's just like taking the rules and you're bending the rules to your advantage. You're using a rule that's supposed to keep you safe, quote unquote safe, but you're using it as a way to DQ people.
Yeah,
and so it's kind of it's backwards.
There's a lot of guys that are doing a lot of stuff. Like I remember, like one year, it was very popular to take the back, and these guys were taking the back, but they wouldn't finish you. They would take the back and then stall.
It's like, come on,
just hold position.
It's like Jesus Christ, you got the back, fucking finish the guy, But no, we can't risk that. He might get away. So instead, let's whatever, hold the position the whole time.
Kurt, is there a rule set that you think is ideal or best? I guess there's not an ideal rule set. Is there one that you like that you think, as far as like
I really like my rule set for like the KO finishers, like the tournaments that I was doing, and I hope to get back to doing them eventually after the pandemic, which hasn't killed anybody as much as the Black Plague. So, I think that it should be like 5-minute goes until somebody's finished, and I don't have like a bunch of like the reaping and stuff like that. It's like if you reap the leg and you're really going for a heel hook, and I don't allow heel hooks, then it's a thing, But now IBJJF is like thinking, oh, we're gonna let heel hooks in. You want to see how many people end their careers? You know what I'm saying? It's like when you reap somebody, you're putting him into a heel hook position. So I put my foot over and I push your knee out and I grab your heel. So I think that, me myself is like, my tournaments are like to a finish, and I make them in bursts so that you're like anxious to finish. You know what I'm saying? Because the longer the fight goes, you might not have the gas to do it. So you better be trying to finish the whole time.
Yeah. So how does that work? So you say 5 minutes. Now, let's say if it comes to 5 minutes, the match hasn't finished. What happens then?
Stand up, tie your belts, go.
Okay. So he's break and go again.
You just keep going until somebody finishes. There's no decision, no nothing.
I think, for me personally, this is my own idea. I think jiu-jitsu matches in some cases are way too long. Because you look at wrestling. Wrestling, like, the pace gets faster because the athletes get in better shape and everything else. But they don't, like, it's not like from high school on to like even in the Olympics. It's not like they keep extending the time period to be double or quadruple, right? Like, in jiu-jitsu matches, you watch like a 10-minute match sometimes or a 20-minute match, and it starts off like the guys. If it's a long match, you either have the guys that go for it regardless, and they're killers and they're going to go for it, and maybe they fizzle out at the end because they get tired, or you get the guys that go out there and they kind of dance around for the first few minutes and then they turn on.
They put the pressure on.
Right. I would just say, look, we'll shorten down the time. You got 6-7 minutes, whatever. Go after it. Kill it. Just open wide open and you can go.
What was wrestling in high school? It's 3?
It's in high school. For American wrestling in high school, we would do 3 2-minute periods. So you do 2 minutes, like break for a second, choose an up or down position, 2 minutes, and then you do 2 minutes until someone got pinned.
Yeah, I think that makes a sense of urgency. You know what I'm saying? So then you're going to be earnest with your with your fighting. You know what I'm saying? You're going to get after it.
Yeah.
It's not like you're going to fucking. The other guys, like, if there's 6 minutes or 5 minutes, whatever, and it's a tournament fighter, he is gonna, and the guy who's a tournament fighter, he's gonna orchestrate his match, because my buddies came over here and hung out with me from Brazil, and they're like, no, Kurt, first minute you walk around, dance around, second minute you touch him, you walk around, third minute you jump the guard, and I'm like, holy shit, these guys got their whole fucking match planned out.
Yeah.
And then it's like, and then this time I sweep, I go on top, I win.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, son of a bitch, you guys are bastards.
Yeah.
Just
playing the rule set perfectly. And it's a way to win. I mean, for me, I remember when I started doing the Masters classes, which, it's like a 6-minute match at the period where I'm at now. And I loved it because I'm like, okay, I don't even have to reserve any energy. I can go wide open for the whole time. But then I started.
You should be able to.
Yeah, you should be able to. I think most black belts, if you're in decent shape, 6 minutes is nothing. I think one of the things I thought was it saddened me a little bit. I remember going to the Pans one year, and I remember watching some of my buddies compete, and they were in Masters divisions. And I was watching around some of the other guys, and some of these matches are anywhere from 5 to 6 minutes, right? I don't know why they go down to 5 minutes for some of these guys that are in their like 30s still, But the guys would get a point, and I mean, for the rest of the match, they're scooting out to the edge of the mat and they're staying away. I'm like, dude, come on, like, go out there and win that stuff, man. Go out there and like put it on the line.
Yeah, that's one thing that Hal taught me a long time ago. He was like, look, there's winning, and then there's winning beautifully, and that's fucking finishing the guy. So, you know,
Agreed.
I mean, if you're really doing your job, then you're trying to get the guy.
Yeah. It's more fun. It's more fun to watch, just for the audience, for anyone, even people that maybe aren't as familiar with jiu-jitsu, like maybe out their parents or whoever. It's more fun to see people going after, being aggressive.
It's more fun for yourself. I mean, dude, it's your artwork, right? That is your, we're artists, right? We're martial artists. That's your artwork out there on the mats. And what do you want to look back on? Do you want to look back on that you skirted around and you maybe tickled the guy's foot and that got like a reaping call? Or do you want to go out there and look, I had that dude choked out and I was like, put him in a bow and arrow and he's like gurgling? Like, we all want to get the submission. That's what it is.
I think that should be the main function and always has been, and then some people have like kind of like diluted it down to like, okay, we can get this advantage and then we fucking hold on and we're fucking in.
So you wouldn't like your term is no points, right? Nothing like that. And you don't really agree with that. You're not a fan of that.
There has to be, you're gonna have to win.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it's interesting. Yeah, it sets up a certain type of style of game. You have to have a certain time because otherwise you'll just keep going.
You have to be a finisher.
Exactly.
And that's why it's called KO finisher.
Exactly.
So you come in here and you have to finish your opponent. And I did a KO finisher pro, gi and no gi, and I got like my sponsors to put up $2,000 for each division, and that's pretty good. Fucking do a fucking 8-man division for $2,000.
Mm-hmm.
All you have to do is finish your opponent, and I think that stimulates a lot more people to watch the event also, because they know it's not going to be like, oh, and he wins by rolling out the ring and fucking, whatever,
Mm-hmm. What was the longest match that you can remember? Was there like a really long one?
Oh man, we used to do a tournament here in San Francisco. It was the what was it called, the Gracie Open.
Yeah. And
it was my buddy Crosley against his cousin. I think it was Hiron.
Okay.
And those guys fought for like an hour and a half.
Whew.
And then finally, from exhaustion, one of them had to stop.
Yeah. That's great. We had a tournament here in town or whatever, and I remember one of my blue belts had an hour. It was a submission only type tournament. I remember that young guy, so he could do it. He went on for an hour and a half, and they just kept having these overtime rounds. And eventually, he won by basically just the guy was tired and he put him in a submission hole. The guy was just done. But that's a long match, and that's a long time.
That's too long.
Yeah.
Well, nobody like they used to do that too for like Vale Tudo and everything like that. They'd be like, okay, until somebody fucking dies, and, but it's like, it's better. It's like, okay, look, you have this much time to finish each other and that's it. Otherwise you both go home with no money.
Yeah. It seems to me that at that point with after an hour and a half, both people are so exhausted. It's just more mental. It's just who's got the mental kind of toughness to stick it out. Who's not going to quit at that point.
Exactly. But, shit. Hal used to say this. He put us to train. He's all, look, I'm dropping you in the middle of the ocean. I'm going to come back, but all you have to do is tread water. And we would be like, what the fuck does that have to do with anything? And then you think about it and it's like, oh, yeah, I get it. So basically you just got to survive. So that's what it turns into. It's like, who could survive?
Yeah. Kurt, did you fight some? You had a couple of fights, right? MMA?
I fought 5 times in MMA pro.
How old were you when you fought?
45, 46.
Oh my gosh.
You're a wild man, dude. That's so crazy.
Fuck it, I had to do it, man. I had to do it.
Why? What about it? What about it was something you just felt like you had to experience?
It's something that I just felt that was like the progression to like after doing like gi, no gi, And then, everything I finished up, like I got my black belt, and then I started boxing, and I was like, fuck yeah, I'm going to get good at boxing too. And then as soon as I went over there, I went to a place over here in Oakland, California. It's called King's. Mm-hmm. Like that's where all the pro boxers are at, man. I thought those guys fucking all hated me. And so I go over there and I'm a black belt. And they're like, all right, so you go in this class over here. And those guys would beat me up so badly. And then I'd go to my friend's gym, fucking Chris Cariaso's gym, and they'd put me in fucking the pro class too. And those guys would all kick and punch me and elbow me and fuck me up too. And I was like, fuck, this really, really sucks again. It's basically starting over as a white belt again. Yeah. But that's just the way it is. It's like, fuck. Those guys would be like, yeah, I'm not going on the ground with you. No. I'm gonna punch and kick you.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like you kind of starting over, right? Like, but you have all this knowledge. Yeah. Is there one aspect of martial arts in general that you find like the most thrilling, or even just the most exciting? Like, was the stand up really exciting, like boxing, or?
Yeah, everything was really cool. It's just like everything, it's always the basics, right? And so if your basics are tight, you're gonna have a good game. Doesn't matter if the guy can fucking do whatever. If you have a good 1-2 and you cover your head and you got head movement or whatever, or you can parry kicks or whatever, you're gonna be fine. It's just that timing and the 10,000 hours that it takes to fucking get, you know. Mm-hmm.
It's commitment, man. And it is, as far as sticking with something, longevity, sticking with jiu-jitsu, sticking with boxing, anything. What was it for you? What made you stick around? What made you consistently, getting your head punched in numerous times, day in, day out?
I'm really stubborn.
Yeah. That's it? Kind of, you feel like you're just born with something?
So stubborn. I will never give up. I'll never quit. I never surrender. It's a curse.
It's interesting. Yeah.
It's like my friends are like, you got to just divorce your wife. And I'm just like, I can't do it. I'm too stubborn.
Well, I'm sure she probably thinks that's a good thing.
No, I think she would prefer it. But tough shit. Tough shit for her. Tough shit for her.
Oh, man.
I'd drag her down to the depths of hell.
There is something about it though, man. I don't know what it is. I don't know if maybe someday they'll find like people like us, there's a gene in us or something, because you listen to
perseverant.
Well, not even perseverance, someone that becomes addicted to grappling. Because, for me, for instance, people will say, Chewy, you've been grappling for a long time. How did you stick with it or whatever? And, me sticking with it, there was never really an option. I just liked doing it.
Yeah.
I just enjoyed it. Like, it's not something I had to struggle to do. It was like I would get my ass kicked, but I liked doing it.
It's like a drug.
Well, it was just one of those things that I enjoyed doing it.
Right.
And I don't need motivation to do something I like doing.
Right.
And so, I feel like maybe there's just some of us are wired differently. We like it.
My dad was a wrestler too. And so, like, as a little kid, I wrestled him. Like that's the things that I remember is like always wrestling my dad when I was little. And he was a freestyle and a Greco-Roman fucking wrestler from Germany. And so I grew up with it. And like if you want your kid to be tough at school, just teach him how to grapple.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? My dad would be like this. He'd drop me off at school. He'd go, if there's any problems and you get sent to the office, just have him call me. And I'm all right. And therefore, he was called a lot of times to the office because Kurt would grab the other people by their head and fucking, throw them on the floor. So I think that it's really an equalizer, especially for like bullying and shit like that. Like you fucking sock that bully back or throw him on the floor, it changes for you.
Oh yeah, I remember being in high school figuring out that like a double leg takedown's kind of a fight ender. I remember getting picked on.
Fuck yeah, especially if you fucking put it into a wall or a car, he's fucking through.
That's it, dude. Like it was, I remember it was like a power unlock. Like I was playing a video game and I realized that thing we had been doing for the sport that was fighting. oh, I can just blast a guy through like this old radiator on the side, and that's it, no more.
Yep.
They'll leave you alone.
I got in trouble for that. If I can put one of the football players coming down the hallway, and I was like, fuck, this guy's gonna fuck with me. I'm just not in the mood this day, Sure enough, fucking blast double. I always fucking took care of it. But then again, I was in the office again.
Yeah, well, he's a football player, and you're like, just in a metal band, right?
Hey, these guys are not that huge either. A metal band will you get good at fucking swinging on people in a metal band.
That's right.
Not like correctly, but at least you're swinging.
Yeah. No, I mean, you probably get into some mosh pits and stuff early on in your time. Yeah.
It was even better when I was blue belt and I went back to the mosh pits. Holy shit. Abuse of jiu-jitsu.
That's funny, man. Kurt, man, just wrapping up, like, what do you got going on? Can you tell us a little bit about where your gym is and if you guys are, open or where people can find you?
We're in San Francisco, downtown, Mission Street, 2356 Mission. And there's parking right across the street. You can take BART or bus or drive, whatever you'd like. And right now we're doing like a limited schedule, like Mondays and Fridays, 7 a.m., 5 p.m., and 6:30. And then as we go along and everything loosens up, we'll add more classes. But before we had a fucking blown out schedule. There was 7 a.m.s, 11 a.m.s, 5 and 6:30 every day.
Nice. And what's your gym's called? What's your gym's?
Empire.
Awesome. Kurt, man, thank you so much for your time, brother.
Thank you for having me on, you guys.
Best of
luck. All right, guys. So, again, that was the podcast. God, I said it again. Podcast.
Can't speak.
I can't speak. I'm saying, what was that? The Mike
words
Tyson?
Words are hard.
Yeah, words are hard. Did you ever see like the Mike Tyson memes where they have like because he has that like the lisp? Yeah. But they'll have those. I felt like that. Like I keep saying podcast instead of podcast. But again, I hope you guys enjoy the podcast with Kurt. Again, interesting fella.
He's got, he's a
character.
I'd say he's like kind of rough around the edges.
Sure.
But he's got so much knowledge and like so much jiu-jitsu history.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's been around like with some of these greats, and he's kind of there from the beginning. So like it's really, obviously he speaks in a certain way that may not be everybody's cup of tea or whatever, but like, man, he's a fun dude to talk to.
Here's the thing,
he's got a ton of knowledge.
I don't necessarily.
I don't care.
I don't care, and I don't. I'll cuss from time to time, but I typically try not to drop the F-bomb or anything too much. But the fact that he doesn't bother me, and I like. And I don't know about you guys. Like one of the things I don't like is I don't want like existence to be homogenous. Right. I like the fact that there's all these different people. It gives, you know what I mean? It's like, for instance, with music. What makes a song really good? The fact that there's different tones, there's different beats, there's pauses, right?
Yeah.
Like the fact that there's a pause in a song makes the song, because otherwise you would just have a long string of notes with no pauses. The fact that there's a break in the music makes the music.
Yeah.
The fact that there's a different tone in the music makes the music. And when you think about foods, right? Like what's really good when you have these different tastes? If you eat a bowl of oatmeal by itself, it's just very bland.
Yeah.
But then you add a little bit of fruit in there, add a little cinnamon. It's like all of a sudden you start getting these tastes popping through, a little spicy, spicy, or even like like Jess and I, we're gonna do our Friday dinner, and we'll I think we're gonna do the Cuban place tonight, and we'll go in there and we'll get the food that we get. I mean, in the food, it's like there's so many different flavors going on. Everything from like the salmon I'll get with the green sauce, and it's got the fried plantains, and we might get bread pudding, which they call it. They have this thing called it's bread pudding, but they call it like capirotada. Mm-hmm. It's delicious, amazing.
All that Cuban food is incredible,
delicious. But anyway, so it's delicious. But again, it's the flavors. There's all this different stuff, and I think that's there's people that I don't necessarily agree with. There's people that I do agree with. There's people that do things differently. And again, that to me, that's like, what do they say? The spice of life?
Yeah.
I think it sounds silly, but it that's what makes life fun. Is like there's differences. Because for instance, I would not want everybody to be like me. The world would be annoying if it was like me. Because I annoy myself, right?
You annoy yourself?
Hell yeah, I annoy myself. You don't annoy yourself? I annoy myself.
I don't know.
Dude, I annoy myself all the time because I'm like, why did you say that, you stupid?
Well, that, like, I don't think, yeah. I don't think that's annoying to myself, but yeah, sometimes I'm like,
yeah, dude.
Why do I do that?
I get on my nerves sometimes, you know? Like, I mean, just I get on my nerves. So like, you know, like for instance, like with like Jess is like my girlfriend. She's kind of like she's a very opposite person to me. She's very quiet and everything else, and I'm a half introvert, half extrovert. She's very much an introvert, but I'm like glad she's the way she is, because I couldn't deal with a person like me. Gotta be like, dude, shut up, like leave me alone. You know, and even you're different than me.
Yeah.
And it's good that you're different than me, because if you were the same as me, this podcast wouldn't work. Because I'm all over the place. Same thing with Joe in the business, like my business partner Joe with the gym. Like if he was the same as me, there would not be a Derby City MMA.
Yeah.
It would just be like, you know, probably training out of some like really small place because I don't have certain skills that are necessary. So again, you got to appreciate those differences. And so I think that you know, especially in a time like now where we want everybody to follow lockstep in line with an ideal or whatever. I don't like it. I like people to be able to do whatever it is they want to do and have the differences. Sometimes I'm not going to agree with them, but to me that goes back to the ideal of the country we live in, where it's like, no, like this is how this is supposed to work. We get to have different opinions, but we just, you know, you don't harm anybody else.
Yeah.
And you can do what you want to do. You can say what you want to say, but you don't harm anybody else. And just go about our way.
Yeah. So make this country great, honestly. Like the diversity is what makes it great.
Mm-hmm.
The uniqueness.
Right.
You know, it's like we have this country, but it's got like, I mean, you could go to one part of the country and the other part, and it's like you're in a totally different place.
You're in like a different country.
World. Yeah.
Yeah. You're like
different part of the world.
You think about like Europe, right? Like you think of how small those countries are, and then how big our country is. And if you go across different states, it's like being in a different place.
Yeah.
You understand the world. We have like some basic ideas that we cling to together, but I mean, otherwise, it's like very different.
Yeah. And it's beautiful. That's what makes the U.S. great.
Yeah. So but anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed the podcast. Random little rant there, as we always do. Again, big thanks to our sponsors. And don't you do it. I know what you're getting ready to do right now.
Don't fast forward.
Don't fast forward, because you're going to miss out, because you don't know where I'm going to go, because again, I'll start talking about something weird, and you're going to miss it. You don't want to miss it. And listen, if I don't go any other random tangents today, and you're like, damn it, Chewy, I listened to all these stupid things and I didn't miss anything. You don't know that it's intermittent. Sometimes there's something going on, and sometimes there's not. Sometimes there's rant. Sometimes there's. Right now, I'm ranting, right? And so you're getting this. So
something. You're getting something. I don't know what it is.
I'm in a squirrely mood today.
You are. You're squirrely today.
You should see me like in between, like when we were Eugene. I was talking
between recording. We have like 30-minute conversations between podcast. If you're ever here early, like it's like we have a whole podcast before the podcast.
Yeah, and I do. And sometimes like when I start talking, I'm in a squirrely mood. I have conversations with myself where I'm like acting different parts of people.
Yeah,
you know?
You like you have arguments with yourself.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I do this all the time.
Huh.
Yeah. Just like I was having arguments with myself, just with you guys, right? So see, this was worth it, right? So don't fast forward. But anyway, thank you guys for joining on the podcast. Big thanks to our sponsors, Charlotte's Web. Having a problem with those words again. Barely got that L out of there. You can go to their website if you want to check out some CBD. Go on the month test. Now, they don't have a product that says like the month test, or month trial. I just say like when you're trying to supplement, give it a whirl. See what you think. Don't listen to me. Don't listen to anybody else. Try it yourself. See what you think. And then go from there. And if you want to do so, save some money in the process, you can go to their website and put in the promo code Jiu-Jitsu. Save 15%. If you'd like to try out some of Matt's Epic gear, you can go to epicrollbjj.com, use the promo code Jiu-Jitsu, save 15% on the order. Check out some of those new slick looking green shorts. If you guys want to jump into the Patreon, I got a new phone, so I'm trying to bring up my notes.
So fancy.
Yeah, right. I had like the old phone forever, and the only reason I changed it is because the camera's nice, so I can use it for like doing some videos and stuff. But I otherwise I would have just stuck with my. I had that one that you guys have watched videos of where I throw it around. That sucker's a tank. I've had that since 2016 or something like that.
Don't throw that one.
I'm gonna throw it.
All right. Good luck.
If it doesn't work, then I figured it out.
All right.
Got to replace it. It's a bad phone. Can't take a little damage.
It's operator error.
But if you guys want to jump in on the Patreon, to get the podcast extras, to get the content that we have up there. And there's a lot of different stuff. It's not just podcast extras. There's videos, there's workout programs, there's all kinds of stuff that I throw in there, and that Eugene throws in there. And along with that, if you get the upgraded tier, you get to jump in on the, typically right now it's bi-weekly. We may increase that, I don't know yet, but bi-weekly Zoom calls where you get to jump in and hang out with me and different people, and we talk about jiu-jitsu or whatever else is going on. Like I said, last week I broke down my diet and was showing everybody my cutting diet versus my bulking diet so that you can see the methodology behind it. So hopefully you could kind of use that idea and be like, oh, okay, cool. So this is how this could work out for me too, to try to demystify, what that stuff is. And then again, if you guys also want to jump into my email list, the Chew Crew, the most of the time once a day emails from Monday through Friday with my ramblings. Like I said, if you like my videos where I kind of ramble about ideas, if you like the podcast where I jump on some tangent and tell you some story, then you'll enjoy the email list. You can go to the website at jiujitsu.net. You can go to the free ebook section. When you sign up, you'll get a little package of an ebook where there'll be one for drilling. There's one for teaching you how to create your own game plan, and I'll show you my exact game plan of how I set it up. It's literally there's been some additions because the book was written in 2016, but for the most part, that's the core. Still the same, very much the core. And you can use that methodology for your own self, and there's video included. And you get that, and you can unsubscribe at any time if you don't like it. If you're like, hey, Chewy, I don't like these emails. These emails get on my nerves because, they say Chewy, and I keep thinking it's my pet food. I actually changed the sender name because for a long time people were like, I kept thinking it was like Chewy.com, so they thought it was their pet food. So now it says Jiu-Jitsu. But again, if you want to unsubscribe, you can unsubscribe, and that's that. So hope you enjoyed the podcast today, guys.
It's a fun one. And also, if you want to see the video version of the podcast, head on over to the YouTube.
Oh yeah. So let's say you guys.
Jiu-Jitsu Podcast.
So let's say you guys are like, you know what, Chewy, I'm not gonna sign up for your email list. I ain't buying the CBD, and I ain't going to get none of Matt's epic stuff. But you know what I might do? I might go subscribe. So you can go to the website at youtube.com, and you can go put in the Jiu-Jitsu Podcast, and you can see the room that we have. We have a room. We've come a long way. We've come from the humble beginnings of doing a podcast on top of a massage table
with one microphone.
With one mic in us. We're like damn near kissing each other. And then I'm fiddling, aren't I?
You're a fiddler.
I'm fiddling.
Stop fiddling.
Okay. I like to fiddle with stuff. And then now we're in a. So someone called it, like, because of the brick wall, they called it the
Joe Rogan's.
Joe Rogan.
Don't steal Joe Rogan's podcast room. Look, it's for function, really. There's a really ugly wall back here, and I had to cover it up.
And a brick wall is like kind of a thing. A lot of people have brick walls now.
Yeah, well, there's actually a brick wall behind this thing, but it just would take a lot of work.
But it's not that. It's not like that. It's not like that.
Yeah. So anyway, we needed. Yeah, it's nice. Ambiance.
Yeah.
Sound. Protection.
Sound protection.
You know what I mean.
Was it like a sound condom?
Somewhat.
Is that what you created here?
This is what the room is called. It's called the sound condom.
Sound condom. Is that what you've created?
Welcome to our studio, the sound condom.
We got like the best sound protection in here. It's double walls with insulation. Really protects your sound.
Sound condom. What's wrong with us? We have issues.
All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed the podcast. Talk to you next week.